My name is Lynsey Addario. I'm a photojournalist, and I've written a book called It's What I Do. People always ask me if it's an advantage or a disadvantage to be a woman in a war zone or in certain parts of the world. And for me, I work primarily in the Muslim world, and I always find it a great advantage to be being a woman, because as a woman, I have access to both women and men. And I'm allowed into people's homes. I'm often sort of underestimated in a way that my male colleagues are not. And so I've always found it a great advantage, and people are often very respectful to me. In the summer of 2008, I got a phone call from Dexter Filkins, he was a correspondent for the New York Times, and he was writing a piece for the magazine on the Taliban in Pakistan and sort of the Talibanization of Pakistan and how they were gaining more and more control in the tribal regions and influencing policy. And he said, "Do you want to come with me?" And I said, "Well, how do you anticipate doing this? Are you going to meet with the Taliban?" I sort of said it in jest, and he said, "Yeah, of course." So I flew into Islamabad and drove up to Peshawar, which is the area very close to the tribal area. And we got a call from the fixer who was arranging this meeting, and he said, "Okay, Haji Namdar has agreed to meet with you. But there's one stipulation: you cannot bring a woman." So then my translator said, "Oh my God, they're going to kill us if we show up with a woman. They said, don't bring a woman. What can we do?" And so he was racking his brain, our translator. And finally he said, "I have an idea. We can say you're Mr. Dexter's wife." So we get very dressed up in traditional clothes because we have to drive through the tribal areas, which is an area that was not permissible for foreigners. And we drive through the tribal areas and we reach Haji Namdar's house, the commander who's agreed to see us. And I have to sit in the car. So the men go inside and they ask his permission for me to come inside. And he says, okay. So we walk in and I'm basically tripping over all my clothes. My face is covered with a veil and I have long sort of tent-like clothes on. And I walk in the room and there are about 20 Taliban fighters sitting around this very small room, and Haji Namdar's in the middle. And so Dexter says, "Hey, Haji Namdar, this is my wife." And so I, just bow my head and I sit down. He says, "And my wife has a camera, and could you take some pictures?" And he says, "Yeah, sure." So I take out this giant camera and I start shooting, and I couldn't believe it was even plausible for them. And so I'm photographing. So about 15 minutes into it, all the Talibs around me started getting very nervous, and I thought, oh God, they're going to kill us now. Now they're going to say that there's a bounty on our heads and they can get millions of dollars, and this is the time. And so a guy came to me and he says, "Madam, Haji Namdar would like you to drink a cup of tea, but we don't know how you can drink your tea with your veil over your face." And so everyone was very, very nervous. And so I'm just sitting there, and then someone says, "I have an idea. She can stand in the corner of the room and face the wall and drink a cup of tea under her veil as she gives her back to the rest of the room." So I literally sat in a room full of Taliban as they all have their weapons. Dexter's doing his interview, and I'm standing facing the corner of the room drinking a cup of tea. And then we spent the day with them.